so I'm trying a different function on this mic that I haven't tried before. So I'm hoping the sound is nice. Anyway, so I have an announcement to make. The reason I have been so sick recently, I'm pregnant. It was very unexpected, but a blessing nonetheless. You would think I'm like old enough that these things wouldn't happen, but I'm gonna tell the story behind all of this, and then like not just this situation. So I'm gonna get into the losses that I've experienced in the past. So it can be very triggering. So I just want to go ahead and say that to y'all, so that you can go ahead and click out of this video if it's too much for you, because I would never want to do that to anybody. So good. So I'll go ahead and get into the story of how we found this out, and like this. So, well, maybe no, I'll get into like the past first. So I would say skip ahead if you don't want to hear about the losses. I'll put the time of when it switches to like this happy moment. So my husband and I got married back in 2015, and like I knew that we knew we wanted to have kids. Sorry. I should have went with the lollipop. So we knew that we wanted to have kids, and like we didn't use, my husband and I have never used any type of protection ever. Sorry, we live kind of close to an airport, so my husband and I knew that we wanted to have kids, and we never used any kind of protection or anything, like our entire relationship. Like I took Plan B one time, like at the very beginning of our relationship, but then like I was like a little bit suspicious. Like we never used any protection, and we did the pull-out method. So I know the infamous pull out and pray, but I was like pulling out and praying that we were gonna have an oopsie. So we got married in 2015, and then in 2017, at the beginning of the year, like my period has kind of been like, it was a little weird. So like for a few months it was a little weird. So like in December, like I was like, I had missed my period, and I took a pregnancy test and it came back negative. So I was just like, okay, like I'm having another weird cycle. And then I went to the doctor because I was like, hey, it's been like 60 days. And my brain, I wasn't like, oh, we should probably test again. I was just like, my period hasn't started. It's been 60 days. So my doctor is like, okay, let me go ahead and put you on this medication that'll make your period start. But we're gonna go ahead and do like a blood test, pregnancy test on you. And I was just like, oh, that's never gonna be positive. Like, just was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And my husband was out of town for work. So I was just like, oh my goodness. I sent him, like, I told him, and he was super happy. And like, he was gonna be gone for work for like the next few months. So I ended up, like, of course I took like 5 at-home pregnancy tests because I didn't believe it when the doctor told me. So I ended up taking, and obviously they were all positive. Okay, the airplane is just never gonna be moving out of here. Anyway, so obviously all of the tests were positive because my doctor told me already I was pregnant. I just like to go spend money on pregnancy tests, apparently. I really hope that those planes, you can't hear them because I can hear them. Like, that one you can definitely hear. Okay. So I took those tests and I was like, I'm pregnant. This is amazing. And my doctor's like, okay, we need to get you in for a scan next week. And I was like, okay. So excuse me. I believe my scan, this happened on a Thursday or a Friday when I ended up going to the doctor. I think, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I decided that I would go to the ER because I was having like a little bit of a pain on my right side, but I'm not like familiar with any of that. I swear all these jets don't take off until I'm sitting here down to video, and my body doesn't do all these noises until I'm sitting down to video. Maybe it does and I'm just unaware, probably. Anyway, we're just gonna continue to go on, or I'm gonna be editing and pausing and everything for the next whatever. So I decided to go to the ER because I had like a slight pain on my right side. So I went to the ER, and like there were quite a few people in the ER, but they got me back like super fast. Like I checked in, like my cheeks barely touched the seat, and they had me back. And she, like, the nurse was so sweet. She was like, I was like, I'm concerned that it's an ectopic, and she's like, it's not an ectopic. Like, you're gonna be okay, but we'll take good care of you. So she's like, it's not an ectopic. We'll take care of you. So I get back to the room. They end up drawing my blood, and then they were like, yeah, your levels are at like 12,000. I was like, oh my gosh. They were at like 900 like 2 days ago, and they were like, no, it was like 9,000. And I was like, I don't know, she told me the wrong number, or if I heard the wrong number. Thank you, dog. Between the dog and the planes, my gosh. But I don't know, I probably heard the wrong number. So I was like, holy moly, that's like a lot. And I didn't really know, so I'm like Googling while I'm waiting to get an ultrasound done, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. And then they finally come in and do the ultrasound, and like they don't tell me anything because it's in the ER. And then like I guess whoever, like, it wasn't long, the doctor like knocks and comes in, and he's like, you need to have emergency surgery to remove your right ovary. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've never had surgery before. Like, I was freaking out. My husband's out of the country. I'm in the ER by myself. Like, my friends, like, who knew were calling me nonstop. And I was just, like, I was in a panic at that moment. So I just screamed. And then I laid back, like, in the bed. And I was in so much pain. Like, I was not in that amount of pain before this all happened. Like, so I was just like in super amount of pain. And so I like got is starting to, like, the monitors, like one of those monitors that like continuously does it every now and then. And then, so I ended up, and I looked, and it was 70/40, which is really, really low. So they ended up, like, coming back in real quick, like, a bunch of people came back in, and, like, for some reason, I had left my bra on underneath the gown. So they literally had to cut me out of my bra. And they came back in with the ultrasound machine, and just like the one on that they do, like an abdominal one. And the guy was, I guess, looking for some of my organs, but he couldn't find them. So they knew I was bleeding internally. And then my friend ended up showing up, and they were like, "It's your sister." And I was like, they gave me some good drugs, I'm telling you, because I was in a lot of pain. So they gave me some IV drugs. So at that time, I was like back to my weird, goofy self. Like, I didn't feel any pain. And she was sitting with me, and I was like cracking jokes with her. Like, you would never think that this dramatic situation is happening. But the doctor ends up coming. The one, like, the on-call doctor that was doing the surgery, she comes and she's like, "All right, we're gonna take you back." And I asked it, like, how far along it was, and she was like, 7.5 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, I'm that chick that gets on the toilet and has a baby. Like, how did I not know at all that this was happening? Like, it was just mind blown. This chocolate one is good, but I recommend the other flavor. In the midst of all the scenes that I've cut, because of the planes, I've eaten all the crackers that I had. I'm literally eating a lollipop and eating the crackers in between. Anyway, so I end up getting into the OR, and they had to put a catheter in me while I was awake with all that business going on downstairs. It was so painful, so painful. Like, put me out before you do that. So, like, you know, in your brain, when you're like, I can do this, they asked me to move, if I could move from the, like, the bed that they wheel you in to they asked me if I could move from that bed to the OR bed. And I was like, yes, I can do this. I couldn't do it. It hurt so bad to try to get over there. So they ended up having to do it for me. And then I finally went under. And when I woke up, I was in the ICU. And apparently I don't know, I want to say like a liter of blood in my abdomen or something. Like, I needed a lot of blood given to me because of how much blood I lost. And so I ended up, my tube ruptured. It was in my tube. It ruptured. I was in the ER, thank goodness. And is good, which everything came back great. And then I even had a HSG, which is like when they do the dye in your tube. Oh my god, it's so painful. So painful. So I had that done. Tube was clear, but perfect. And then like we just weren't getting pregnant. So we ended up moving for my husband's job. And at this new place, I went to see the doctor and I was like, hey, me and my husband are trying to get pregnant. This hasn't happened. So the doctor ends up doing a laparoscopic procedure. I think that's what it's called. And I had a lot of scar tissue like around my tube and my ovary. We're not going to get into that, but there's a reason. So he ended up like removing all of that, and he's like, that tube wasn't moving. Like there was so much scar tissue that tube was in its place. So he ends up doing that, and then he ends up doing another dye test, and he says tube is good, like really good news. He's like, if you get pregnant, you need to come in as soon as possible so we can scan you to make sure it's not another ectopic. I was like, perfect. So that happened. That procedure, I want to say, happened November of 2018 or sometime, maybe the end of 2018, because my husband was gone on a work trip. Yeah, it was I think in November. Well, in 2020 or 2019 December, I found out I was pregnant, and like I caught it early this time, so there was no going to the ER or going to have another surgery. Like I caught it early, so I ended up catching it really early, and they didn't have any appointments for a hot minute. I tried to get in to see the doctor, so I ended up going to the ER, and I said, hey, this is my situation. Like, you know, I'm scared because of the situation I had in the past. I wasn't really experiencing any pain or anything, but they said, okay. They did do an ultrasound, and they took my HCG, which my HCG was only 50 at the time, so much lower than the 9,000 and then 12,000. So they said, okay, it's 50, so come back to the ER in 2 days and we will like recheck it. And of course, I went to the ER on Christmas Day. Yeah, so on Christmas Day, I go to the ER, get my levels checked, and it only rises to 69. So people that know about like pregnancy stuff, it is supposed to like usually double in 48 hours, and it definitely was not. So I already knew. I was like, this is an ectopic, another ectopic, or they were like, it's not a viable pregnancy. I was like, okay. So I finally get in with the regular doctor, and she is like, they do an ultrasound, and obviously the number was so low. sure, but so I was actually going to Florida in like 2 days to go visit my family. So she was like, do you just want to wait and get it done in Florida, or do you want to go ahead and get it now? And I was like, well, if there was actually pregnancy tissue in here, then I don't think I need this shot. So we ended up not getting the shot. I ended up not getting the shot, going to Florida, and then she calls me and she's like, hey, you need to get this shot. There wasn't any pregnancy material in the swoop that we did up your uterus, so most likely it's another ectopic. So here I am on vacation in the ER again, and I'm trying to, like, she gives me a letter and everything, and I'm trying to, like, explain the situation to them, and I understand, like, they can't just give out shots, like, it's not how that works. So they ended up doing, like, their running blood work, which was, like, I mean, my levels were increasing so slow that they were like, yeah, this is definitely another ectopic. So they gave me the shot, 2 shots in my butt, and I went on my merry way. And I mean, when I tell you, like, cramping, and you can't take, because it's hard on your organs or your liver, I think, so you can't take any Advil or ibuprofen. You can only take Tylenol, and every woman knows Tylenol sucks for cramps. Absolute terrible. So it was just a miserable time visiting my family, and like, not, it was great to see them, but I was just in so much pain. Oh, it was terrible. But it ended up, my levels ended up going back down to 0, and I got on birth control then. And me and my husband were like, is this worth it to do this? Like, I'm not trying to die. Like, it was very, the second one was really mentally and draining on me. Like, it really took a toll on my mental health. Like, I was definitely depressed after that happened. So I just said, I don't think it's worth it. Like, we can live without kids. I was like, we'll just get a second dog. And we did get a second dog. So we decided, I was on birth control, and we decided, let's just not have kids. Like, it's okay to not have kids. Or we tossed around the idea of possibly doing like IVF. But IVF is expensive. So I was just like, I don't want to spend that amount of money for not a guaranteed child. I know there's adoption and stuff too, but I was worn down. So I ended up getting to Korea, and I was just like, wow, IVF is really cheap here. So if we wanted to do it here, like, I would be willing to do that. And we kind of went back and forth, and we were just like, I kind of got in the mindset of not having children. I was like, I'm okay with this. My dentist would probably be screaming. So we just decided, okay, that's it. And like, I was taking birth control still, but I just wasn't loving, because I had to take Korean birth control then, and I was like spotting in between my cycles, and I just wasn't really like loving it anymore. I wanted to allow my body to have a period naturally. So I said, hey, I'm gonna get off my birth control. And I was talking to my friend, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna get my tube tied, so that like I don't have to be on birth control. We don't have to like worry about another ectopic. Like, I'll do that. And my husband said, no, I'll go ahead and get a vasectomy. And I was like, that sounds great. So he like went to the doctor, but like it took forever. Like, they kept rescheduling his appointment, so it was like easier if you like know for sure. We were like, yeah, for sure, we're good. Like, we want to get this done. And so we go out to the front desk and they're like, okay, we have these dates. My husband's like, okay, because it is an elective surgery, he was like, okay, I need to actually check with my work first to make sure that, you know, this is good for their schedule. So he doesn't schedule anything then and there. And I kind of kept haggling him about it for a couple weeks afterwards. And I was like, are you ever going to schedule this? But then he ended up moving job positions, and he was like, I can actually schedule this now because I have, like, it's more relaxed, like, it's not in such, like, high demand. And I was like, perfect. And then he still had never scheduled it though, but we're only talking like a month after his initial appointment. June 28th. No, we're not even talking a few, like, yeah, it had only been a few weeks. So he got that initial appointment, and then it was June. In June, he got his initial appointment, and we got pregnant in July. We were using condoms. Like, it's not like we were being, I mean, I guess I can't really say that it's not like we were being careless, because, you know, we didn't have any condoms at the time, and it was just like, I mean, we tried to get pregnant for so long and it didn't happen. So I was like, really? And I was like, I only have one tube, so what is the likelihood of that happening? So we kind of like did the deed around when I ovulated. Well, I guess not around when I ovulated, but like, well, I mean, yeah, so around when I ovulated. And lo and behold, our anniversary, I was like, so I was having cramps, but I thought they were period cramps. I like went out and got stuff, and I was good to go. So I waited a few days, and I was like, okay, it feels like my period is about to start, but it's just not happening. So I told my friend, I was like, I think I need to take a pregnancy test. I'm sure it's probably going to be negative, but I'm going to go ahead and take one anyway. And like, so I got a pregnancy test, and I'll put the picture in here of what it looked like after I took it. So that's what it looks like. But like, I took the test and like set it on the counter, like in little packaging, and went and did stuff around my house and completely forgot about the test. So I was like, oh, I have to go check that test. And I tell you what, like, stunned, like straight stunned when I saw the test was dark lines. I texted my friend a picture of it, and then I went upstairs to where my husband was at on the toilet taking a number 2, and I showed him the test, and he was like, you couldn't have waited till I got done. And I was like, are you kidding me? No, I'm having a heart attack here. So of course I ended up going to the ER, because I was like, this cannot be happening for a third time. And my friend went with me that I told, and they ran my blood, and they did an ultrasound, and my blood came back at like 597, and they were like, well, we don't have, you know, any other blood work to look at. This is all we have, so you need to come back in 2 days to get more blood work done. And like, I had already called to make an appointment with my Korean provider, but they couldn't see me for like 2.5 weeks, and they don't do blood work before your appointment with your doctor. Like, it's a little bit different. So I ended up going hours because this one was closer to me. And they were like, okay, we'll do this test for you, but we don't have a machine in-house that'll read what the number is. So I literally had to wait another day to get the result back of what this number was, so that I knew what was going on. Kind of. I mean, I kind of knew what was going on. So I called on like a day later. I was like, hey, I just wanted to see if that number was in. And it was. And it was like 1,300. So I told my husband. And I was like, that's like a good sign for a viable pregnancy. So they told me, you need to go back to the original ER that you went to and have them do your blood work again and do another ultrasound. So I was like, okay. And this time I had my husband come with me. And they ran my blood work and it came back, and that was 48 hours later. And it was like 3,600 or something like that. So it was pretty high. I was like, wow. And they did an ultrasound and they saw a little I don't know why I couldn't say that, gestational sac in my uterus. There wasn't like a fetal pole, or I didn't get to see it. They just said it was a sac in the uterus measuring 4 weeks and 6 days. So I was like, oh my goodness, holy smokes, how on earth did this happen? So now I had an appointment like in 2.5 weeks at my regular doctor, and they said, we're fine with you waiting for that appointment, like we're pretty sure this isn't an ectopic. It's like 97%. I don't know where he came up with that, but 97% sure it wasn't an ectopic. So I ended up just waiting for my appointment, and when I went to our appointment, I was measuring 6 weeks, 5 days, and we got to hear the heartbeat. So it was a very emotional time, but like my husband, they had like a curtain and they shut the curtain, so he didn't even get to see the first ultrasound. And I basically had to beg them to show me, or to have him come in for the second. And now I've had 3. I had one at 6.5 weeks, I had one at 8.5 weeks, and 12.5 weeks. When is this? 12 weeks and 4 days. Peanut. So cute. Look at this little. Oh, excuse me. So, I am currently, I am 4 weeks, and 4 weeks. I am 14 weeks and 2 days pregnant, and it has just been a crazy, like, I can't think of any other way to put it other than this is God's will. And I'm not like a super religious person. So I'm super excited. We go back in at the end of the month. At the end of the month to hopefully find out the gender. I should be almost 17 weeks by then. They said we'll see if we can see the gender. It is what it is. But I'm excited. Like, it's a great blessing. I wanted it for a long time. But I'm just happy. So, yeah, that is where I've been. I've been super sick. But I plan to continue to make more content if I can get everyone to be quiet. a poster and it said baby steps. My husband came up with that one. He's not usually that creative, but baby steps. And I put number 1, breathe. Number 2, don't panic. Number 3, practice on the dogs. And we like practice on the dogs, kinda. But I'm gonna go ahead and sign off of here because I know this video is probably pretty long, and like the noises outside, there's just so much. So thank you guys so much for listening